Hey family, I'm back again. I wanted to talk about this infiltrating and how our lands were stolen in the past and why we are in the positions that we are in. And it's a pattern that tends to repeat itself throughout history, throughout his story, of course, throughout our past existence on our planet. It started, I would say, probably with the European, what we know as the European continents. And it slowly progressed into the other lands that we, of course, occupied at the time. It's called divide and conquer. So they divided us into a group. They divided and conquered. They divided us into group. I don't see the chat on. So I don't have the chat on, but I can put it on this. Let me talk about this here. What happened? Okay. What happened? Okay. I didn't mean to do that. Okay. Let me see where I can go back to Ghana. Alright. So, control and conquer. Divide and conquer. What they did was they divided us. This is why we have such a problem with colorization in the black community, because they started it with this. They raped and stole babies, or they stole kidnapping. They stole some of our people from different continents, and they started breeding grounds. Well, these breeding grounds cause a creation of subgroups, like what we call the Portuguese, what we call the Spanish, and what we call Persians of the times, and what we call Arabs. When we look back, we know that every continent was black. We live on a black planet. The color black is as above, so below. The people are going to resemble the cosmos. Cosmos is nothing but total darkness. So we come from that. So it's only inevitable that the planet is going to thrive and live off of this type of people. But this European has went around and found a way to conquer, divide and conquer and control the whole planet. It started, like I said, in the so-called European British Isles, and made its way around into Africa and Samaria, all these other places, all these other subnames, continent. Because we know that at one time all land was together, but something happened in the cosmos to create this imbalance, and also built this shield, this dome, what we call the dome, over us, and weakened our resolves, weakened our gifts that we were given. So when we look at what his story says in our past, we can see a pattern, that same thing that we can tend to fall for over and over again. I want to say the ego played a big part in this, because the people were pretty much of a higher consciousness, a higher self. And you can see this, you can see that we were of a higher self when you study the Asian culture. And you can study any culture, but you got to look at its ancient way of being, what they did, they didn't have religion. They had something of the mind that allowed for them to do different things, but something had to come and make them susceptible to this ego and fall victim to this ego. We need to look out for this. This is a pattern, and it still happens today. Like I said, the people that went into Greece went in with an ally, and they went in under the false agreement with the people on a coalition to live with them in peace. Meanwhile, they were bringing in, they would send that group in, and then the Caucasian would come. They would make it easy for the Caucasian to come in after they infiltrated you. This is how they lost Europe. The blacks lost Europe. And then the Moors lost their power also from the mulattoes that they had in their groups, because they had a coalition. If you look back in the Moors' history, you would see that they had been called another group, but that group divided and ended up conquering. They were with them, and they were partially Caucasians. So as we see and we look at the Greeks, they actually went into Egypt first, and then the Persians came after the Greeks made it easy for the Persians to come and conquer them. We look at another example of it, and that's Ghana, the Gold Coast. See, before I talk about this Ghana, let me talk about the ancient Ghana, because it plays a part where the Moors were in ancient Ghana. That's Timbuktu and all that. And then behind them, the other half of the Moors that were mulatto came through and killed them all and conquered all of them. They want to say the black Moors did that, but it wasn't the black Moors. It was the mulatto Moors that did this and killed all of them. And that's why the ancient Timbuktu, the ancient Ghana, is no more in existence. And it's not in the same location as the modern Ghana. The modern Ghana's experience has been the Portuguese went in 1471 under the guides and the ally of the British. And then the British went in and was after the Portuguese lived peacefully with the Ghanaians up until 1867. The British were able to come in, and again, the Portuguese, they were doing this all the while the time they were destroying the Moors. Because by this time, the Moors had taught them everything. In the 1500s is when the Caucasian came in. The British had already learned everything they needed. Nostradamus had a teacher was a Moor at this time. When the British finally came and they infiltrated Ghana, but only for a short time, short-lived, because Ghana had a strong back. They still had a lot of their magic, a lot of their powers, and the mother, a representative of the Great Mother, had a lot of knowledge itself. So they were only in rule from 1867 to 1957 when Ghana got its independence from the British. And then we come to the Americas. We look at the Americas. When you think of the Spaniards that came to America first, they were checking out the land, checking out the people, recording, taking notes to take back to this Caucasian. So the strangers gained the trust of the local natives of Americas, and then made it easy for them to be infiltrated by the Caucasians or the Europeans. This is what's been going on. This is what happened. So family, know your past so you don't continue to make the same mistakes over and over and over and over and over and over again. With that said, true love, real peace, and the higher self within your soul, your system, yourself, your higher self. Much love, people.